Hey Neppers, it's me, Wild Neptune. This video will be all about Mitsuzumi Aya. I've been using her a lot in PvP, testing her out, and this video will be about my experiences and what I think should be done and how I think the unit is right now. So let's go. So this is the build I run right now. I don't know this is the best build. It's definitely the only build. I know some people like Bloodbath, definitely. Against pure CC, I think something like this is probably a little bit better. Maybe because extra speed, and pure CC isn't always going to do a ton of damage to you. Even though I will say her health pool is extremely low. Like, this is at level 50, well, not level 50 yet, like level 40, level 44. And man, that is sad. So, Reaper Steps, we have HP, Speed, and Insight. So, Swift, Strive, and Evil Guard. And why I'm using this, well, this is the only other Reaper Steps I have besides this one, which is currently on the link. So, yeah, these are the only two that I have that are going to be like this. I say only two. They're the only two I have with, actual good passives on them. So this is the build that I use. As far as lattices go, we have to go to this screen to see the lattices, unfortunately. And I have to find her. Here she is. So right now, max S2, and we have, right now, tuned to S3, and I'm out of lattices. I do have a dupe, which I summoned for. And I will say, if you plan on latticing a unit, if they do an event to get, summoning for the dupe and get the free lattice for them, I do think it's worth it for normal banner units to do it, because it's at most 80 summons for the lattice, and you guaranteed you get a dupe of a unit that you know you're going to use. I think that's better than saving 300 for the Wishbinder, in my opinion. Now, unfortunately, she is a support character, so the dupe is not, super important for her. But the lattice is very nice, especially, again, since I know that I was going to use her a little bit. So I'll talk about what I think her skill investment should be at the end of the video, after we see some fights, so we can have some context in my reasoning for that. So let's go look at some of the battles. So let's actually start with a match that I lost, unfortunately. We won't watch all the matches, like the whole thing, because I was going to take way too long. So this one right here, he pre-banned Tiamat, I pre-banned Holden, as I usually do. And so he showed some speed with the plume, and I basically discounted, because he banned the Tiamat. I'm like, okay, like, I can pick the Lily, maybe pick Rahu, be a little bit cheeky right there. Maybe try to tank down, and with that, I can get my pushes with my Aya, also the Ling there. So that's basically what happened here. And you see right here in this sequence right now, where the plume goes. Now the plume is on Rev, which is actually kind of scary. I feel like if the plume wasn't on Rev, he loses here. And also, if my Aya S3 was maxed out, I also feel like I win, because this battle was actually pretty close overall. Now, unfortunately, too, the Rahu, just barely gets cut by the Heinrich. It lands the unbuffable here. That's another thing, too. I feel like also, right, to have the unbuffable here, I also win. So there were, a lot of really small things that hurt my chances right there. But yeah, this fight actually goes on for quite a while longer, believe it or not. But as you saw the results, I did lose. But yeah, so definitely have a little more investment, I think, into the Aya. It could have been a win for me. Definitely something you want to consider using her if the opponent doesn't have a actual push for their cleave, like a Lily, or especially if they don't have Beyontin or Suki. And we'll see another fight like that right now. This fight was actually quite a while ago, and see the drafts right here. So he should have drafted a strip in this last spot, but pre-banning, post-banning the Lily here was a pretty easy decision, as the fight doesn't really last that long, especially when I have both a speed Doki and a speed Aya on my team. So right there, you know, so automatic push like right away into the S3 and then into the Doki S3, which, you know, basically which wins the game right there on the spot. So like I said, if the opponent doesn't really have any way to massive CR boost their team and their cleave, and you're on a speed Aya, right? And remember, they also have to have like debuffers that start out. So things like Heinrich is okay, but I definitely find that Plume openers, she's pretty good against when they're trying to do that in cleave. Just make sure that your other units are fast enough where you don't get, you know, messed up by the stupid CR boost thing that the Plume has, because, you know, that is totally broken. This one here into a Plume Tiamat team with a post-banned Lily. So honestly, not a super threatening team, I don't think. I definitely feel this one can have another DPS instead of the Plume, and it'd be actually probably a better team. So, and also my team's pretty strong against it. Now, something I noticed, like not related to really, also interesting, the Plume is auto Ouroboros. Something that I actually considered doing myself. However, really couldn't pull the trigger on it. You know, I think it's kind of an interesting choice. You know, definitely something, again, I'm like, you know, maybe it'll be okay. But not only is my team very strong against their team, I just have so much utility, and the Makoto will just slowly wear down the enemy team. I will say, you might think that Veronica is bad versus Plume, but the truth is that because Plume always AoEs, she always pushes the Veronica up, and she just cycles so fast. So I actually think if depending on other units on your team, the Veronica is actually a pretty good pick. If she's the only stripper, like, on the enemy team. But you see the Aya is just really doing a lot of work here. Now, one thing though is that the Plume doesn't actually debuff that much. Like, besides on the first like S3, and then every other S3 after that, you know, the next few turns. And that means she doesn't actually heal on the S2, which I said in my video when I looked at her. I don't think she'd heal on the S2, but I had to make sure. But she doesn't, and you know, I'll talk about that a little bit later too. But yeah, like, just for a match where you get constantly hit with the strive and the debuffs and keep pushing everything, pretty successful right here. Now, the Tiamat on this team, the damage is kind of low, so maybe with a high damage Tiamat, I'd be in trouble, but pretty safe overall, right? So, in that particular fight, you know, I think it was a pretty simple win for the Aya. However, there are some other fights where there's more damage coming out, and the Aya doesn't quite do enough there. So let's take a look at one of those. Now, this team isn't really good for her, right? Not enough buffs and everything like that. She requires a very specific team, I think, to use her in. But yeah, like, just didn't really work out. The fight actually lasted for quite a while, enough where Tishiyata got to 3 stacks. But by that point, it was a little bit too late, and the Aya just doesn't do enough here, unfortunately. So I think maybe if the Aya had a heal over time also buff, it could be really, really good. You know, on like the passive somewhere, I think that would be pretty nice to have in addition to the healing that she does normally for cleansing. So maybe that's something they could do, help, you know, a little bit of synergy and stuff like that. If it's any like secret, I think Aya is a okay unit. She's like pretty good, but definitely not a top tier unit. It's definitely not something you're gonna draft all the time. Now, I forced her in a lot of drafts that I shouldn't have. Like, definitely think here having another DPS actually is better. Like, even like a Lilium or something like that, I think I would have preferred over her. But, you know, it's what I have, and it's what I went with. But like I said, this match did not go in my favor. And I think based on the draft, you could probably tell that. But you know, again, just trying things out, right? And you know, seeing where the unit works and where it doesn't. And right there, unfortunately for me, it did not work. Okay, so let's say you have Aya, and you want to know. Well, first of all, actually, should he pull Aya? I think for most banner characters, if you like the character, you should pull them. Especially if you're playing every day and doing everything, because you should have more than enough summons to do it. Now, having enough for the dupes is another story. That's a little bit more like spender territory, unfortunately. But if you can get the dupe and you know you're going to use the character, regardless if they're good or not, I do recommend, again, trying to get the dupe. Now, me, unfortunately, I pulled her. I also pulled Kakardi, even though I said I wasn't going to. And like I said, I also pulled the dupe of her. I pitied twice, and the other one took 71 pulls. So, 9 pulls off from, like, the max. It's very bad luck. Especially when I have basically pitied most of the normal banners. So, like, Freya, Nymphaniel, Hoyan, I pitied. Holden, I was, like, really close to pity on him. So, yeah, like, not the best thing. Now, I did also buy the Lattice for 3,000 crystals. I actually don't know if that's worth it, because the Lattice is only for this one character, or the dude, right? If you want to get for him also for 3,000. There's also some config chips though you get with it, so not the worst deal in the world, but it is expensive. So again, a free to play player might not have the resources they want to do that, but if you do spend, there is that option. So, what skills though should you use or skill up with her, and that I think are essential? So, I do think that Max S2 is a must. This is definitely a must-have. This to proc when she can't act is like essential, and also having the extra ER and everything is very nice. After that, I do think that Max S3 is also probably something you really want to get. Getting more turn meter boost and getting a boosted cooldown is really big. And again, these are things that would have won me, some matches, right, that I used her in. So definitely something. Also, the bonus HP is pretty nice because, like you saw, her HP is pretty low. So when I get 2 lattices, like beginning of next week, they will go into these 2 right here. Now, as for S1, I actually don't think it's really important to raise it up. Yes, you get more speed, but she doesn't actually have to be like super fast. Now, I do think that if you're on Bloodbath and not on speed, then this becomes much more important. But if you're running like a Swift, speed build, right? Then this is something I would say is more of a luxury than anything. Like, again, nice to have, pretty good because, again, you get bonus speed and everything. But with the lattice the way they are, you have to save when you can, in my opinion. So this is something that I definitely put off, unless you're a Omega Whale. So yeah, the only thing I would really change is on the S2, like I said. It only healing when you're debuffed is pretty bad, actually, especially for longer fights. Now, maybe you should heal less if you're not debuffed, because if she cycles really quickly, and just healing like all the time, like all this health right away, it can be pretty annoying, pretty powerful actually when I think about it. Also, only 1 debuff is also I think maybe there could be conditions where it heals more debuffs or something. I don't know, because like I said, against like true CC teams, and CC teams are actually better than I thought they'd be after sort of the balance notes. They're definitely worse overall, or worse than they would have been, especially because like things like Mari and stuff like that have come out and have definitely helped CC teams. And also Oval is still busted I definitely think Obel should be a character that is nerfed in PvP maybe. But she can kind of overwhelm with debuffs, and she definitely has to have another cleanser like Winter. So you really have to have, even Winter, you really have to have that cleansing suite for those pure CC teams like the Ling, Doki, and her now. Uh, but yeah, maybe give this like a heal over time. I thought immunity, I think that maybe is a little bit too good. I do think that her overall power level though is where around I think units should be. That being said, there are a lot of units in the game that are just stronger than her. Well, I mean, not strong, but definitely more universal than she is. She's definitely more of a niche pick. It's not like super, super niche. Like, I would say Hoyan is like a super niche pick, and Aya is like a niche pick that you can pick into like other things, but it's definitely not optimal. But she works sometimes, right? That's how I would put it, and yeah, it's like unless they plan to tone down some of the really really busted units, like I'm talking about maybe like Messiah. Even though I would I plan to have another video talking about PvP and stuff like that, how I feel about it in a couple of days. But units like Messiah, like Veronica, Fushu, Plume, and the like Holden, Oval and stuff, right? Like units like we don't tone down these units. You can't really release units like this, even if they are pretty good, and expect people to be like really happy about it, right? At the same time too, though, I do think that Plume was a mistake and that she is too strong. So I don't want another one of those. Like I don't want to totally invalidate like a playstyle with one unit. Like she could validate CC if it was better, but yeah, as is, she's just pretty good. Like, not unhappy that I pulled her. Definitely feel like these lattices are relatively well spent, but definitely not optimal, right? There's definitely other units that I could have put my lattices in before her and probably felt a lot better. But, it is what it is. So that's all of the video right now. Keep an eye out because I do have my 7-day free-to-play account video coming out pretty soon. And also that PvP talk video I'll have a little bit after that. Anyway, like this, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you, everybody. I'm Neptune. It's been a good one. Till next time.